Well, it's 10 o'clock on a Thursday night, and that means it's time for young adults' bedtime stories. Every week at this time, we'll be doing a video of a Little Miss book or a Mr. Man book at your request, and then having some time to talk and reflect on it before we go to sleep. So make yourself cosy, get a hot chocolate and a blanket, tuck yourself in, and we'll start. This week's book was requested by our very own Lauren Johnson, and it's about Little Miss Princess. Do you know a princess? Or are you a princess? I thought not, but maybe you can relate to Little Miss Princess. She's a character who, as we'll see, will try and help lots of people out, but it doesn't always go to plan, even though her heart's in the right place. Maybe all of us can relate to that at times. Let's begin. Are you comfortable, Bertie? This is Bertie. Bertie's going to be helping me tell the story. Little Miss Princess' father was a king, and her mother was a queen, which, as I'm sure you know, meant that Little Miss Princess was a princess. And because she was a princess, she lived in a castle with turrets and a moat, a very big castle. And because she was a princess, she had lots of people doing everything for her. People to mow her lawns, people to cook her breakfast. She even had people to make her bed. And you would imagine that this would have made her rude and spoiled, but she was a kind and generous and good-hearted princess. I am so lucky to be a princess. I must spread my luck around, she would say to herself every morning. And she did this by trying to help people. She sent a chef to cook for Little Miss Sunshine when she heard that Little Miss Sunshine had the flu. When she overheard Mr. Busy complaining how busy he was, she sent a gardener round to mow his lawn. And she sent a maid to Little Miss Neat's house when she heard that Little Miss Neat had worn out her mop. All of this was very useful, and everyone was very grateful. But Little Miss Princess did not feel she was really doing anything to help. So when she heard that Mr. Bump had broken his leg, she rushed round to his house to see what she could do. "I haven't got any groceries," said Mr. Bump. "You could do my shopping for me." So Little Miss Princess went to the shops. But because she was a princess, she had never been shopping. She went to the baker's. "6 sausages, please," she said to the baker. "We don't have any sausages," said the baker. She went to the butcher's and asked for peas. "We don't have any peas," said the butcher. And she went to the greengrocer's and asked for a loaf of bread. "We don't have any bread," said the greengrocer. So she went back to Mr. Bump's house with an empty shopping basket. "The shops have sold out of everything," she explained to Mr. Bump. "Everything?" said a puzzled Mr. Bump. "Yes, the butcher had no peas, the baker had no sausages, and the greengrocer said he didn't have any bread." "Ah," said Mr. Bump, realising what had happened. "Why don't you try the supermarket?" Sometime later, Little Miss Princess returned with the shopping. She offered to put everything away, but because she was a princess, she'd never unpacked the shopping. She put the sausages in the cupboard, the frozen peas in the bread bin in the drawer, and the milk in the oven. Whoops. After she had put the shopping away, Little Miss Princess offered to clean Mr. Bump's house, but because she was a princess, she had never cleaned anything before. She dusted the dishes, she polished the sofa, and she mopped the carpet. Oh no! Little Miss Princess then went upstairs to make Mr. Bump's bed. But because she was a princess, she had never made a bed. Oh dear. Little Miss Princess then offered to cook supper for Mr. Bump. But because she was a princess, she had never cooked a meal before. For supper, they had burnt sausages with burnt potatoes, and she even burnt the peas. Oh dear, said Little Miss Princess, throwing the burnt meal away. I'm just no good at anything. Oh, I wouldn't say that, said Mr. Bump. I'm sure you are good at all sorts of things. Like what? Sniffed Little Miss Princess. I know, said Mr. Bump. Why don't you ring for a pizza? What will that prove? Asked Little Miss Princess. Well, said Mr. Bump, you are very good at giving orders. I love that story. Thank you so much, Lauren, for choosing it. I think a couple of things that stand out to me about this is that all of us, although not all of us are princesses, obviously, we can all relate to times where we've tried to be really helpful and generous, but made a complete hash of it. And all of us, I'm sure, have got funny stories about times where we tried to help out and it really, really didn't work. There's loads of examples of that in the Bible as well. I think of Peter, particularly in the Gospels, where he keeps trying to lend a hand but keeps messing up or saying things that are a bit daft and are a bit stupid. But actually God's grace is there for us because it's on him rather than on us ultimately, and that means that when we work, when we serve, we can go out in confidence knowing that even if we do make mistakes and get things wrong, like Little Miss Princess did in the shops, then we don't have to take ourselves too seriously. We can laugh it off because we know that we completely live by grace, and that God's grace is there for us every step of the way. Sleep well, night night everyone, and see you next week.